Alrighty, welcome to War Corps Live. We're back with another debate. Today I'm debating my old friend Owen Macdonald for the, I believe, third time. This time we're going to be debating fascism versus Antifa, the alt-right, the alt-left. We have diametrically different views on this, so let's get going, I guess. And I suppose maybe debate is the wrong word. It usually turns into more of a discussion. But anyway, basically my opening salvo is if you look at the textbook definition of fascism, and Merriam-Webster's, I'm going to pull it up right now, defines fascism as a political philosophy or movement or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual. Now, yes, you could tie that in to white nationalism to a certain degree, but most of them also jerk off with the Constitution. That stands for a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, severe economic and social regimentation, and the forcible suppression of opposition. In my worldview, and to me, this criteria and what Antifa actually believes, it far more fits them than any white nationalist group, reprehensible as they may be. I'm actually not done.
Oh, sorry, you can continue.
There's another underlying current with this, and that is the freedom of speech. And I'm going to paraphrase here a little bit, but I believe it was Noam Chomsky that said, the type of speech that you find, the essence of free speech is defending the speech that you find absolutely and utterly horrific and reprehensible. And while I don't agree with anything Richard Spencer has to say, much like Anita Sarkeesian or much like Fred Phelps, I will, however, defend their right to say it, because I also believe that the First Amendment is an absolute. And that's my opening statement.
Okay. So firstly, you mentioned a definition of fascism. And I think it's quite telling that you left out two other important bits, which is that fascism is ultra-capitalism, and it's also authoritarian nationalism, the concentration of power and ideas to the state, and the idea that your nation makes you great. And that is the sort of central theme of both white supremacy, white nationalism, and the fascists of the past, like the Nazis, like Mussolini. They were very much about raising the identity of nations. And when you compare that to the far left worldview and the idea that we shouldn't have nations, that workers should be united and own society, the two aren't comparable at all, because one talks about bigging up the nation and like believing in a sort of supremacy based on where you're from and your color, your skin and stuff, whereas the other is about dismantling that completely. Fascism has and always will be about those two core tenets of ultra capitalism and authoritarian nationalism. And to leave out those two to try and connect fascism to Antifa, I find to be quite misleading.
Okay,
you can respond to that first, and I'll come on to the other stuff later. But okay. you go ahead with that.
All right. You say that fascism is capitalism in the extreme. Okay. How in the name of God can a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader with severe economic and social regimentation fly in the face of the system that believes in private property rights, believes that private businesses should run in the way they see fit without government interference? The two, capitalism and fascism and capitalism, they don't work.
Well,
you cannot have the government regimenting every business in the country and say it's capitalist.
That's not what fascism does, though.
Capitalism is the government getting the fuck out of business's business to a certain degree.
if you'd listen a second, fascism isn't yeah, fine. Obviously, the government have a lot of power, but the corporations and the market is still free. In fact, it's freer than ever because unions, workers' rights, restrictions have been removed. If you look at fascist Italy and fascist Germany, yeah, of course, the Mussolini and Hitler regimes had a lot of power, but corporations were given the license to do whatever they want. With workers' rights removed and the power of the working class essentially nullified completely, corporations were given free license to do what they like. And if you look, many corporations actually backed Hitler because the amount of capitalist growth that could be achieved under Hitler would be exponential for their corporations. And they were happy to allow Hitler to rise to power because they knew that fascism benefited capitalism and their brand of wealth, which is why if you look at so many German brands, a lot of them do grow from the original like Nazi roots because they made their money under Hitler's regime. Same goes for Italian brands as well.
Where did you learn this?
What do you mean?
Because
Where did you learn this?
it's patently false.
It's not false. You can look.
Yes, it is.
Hitler was heavily endorsed by business leaders and by capitalist leaders.
Do you know how Hitler rose? Do you know how Hitler rose to power?
Absolutely.
Okay. How?
Well, firstly, he didn't really have much opposition from within
yes, he did.
And within. What do you mean he didn't? Well, the only people who opposed him were communists.
He had a huge hurdle in the government that we set up. There was the loyalists to the Kaiser and wanted that system set up, the monarchy back. He had his party, and then he also had the communists.
Yeah, and the communists
were four major political parties that were there. By the time Hitler had gotten power, by the time he was elected, he had killed all of his opposition. And he had the German people behind him because he had brought in Germany. You're ignoring everything from from Armistice Day up until Hitler's elected chancellor, and I use elected loosely.
Well, indeed. I mean, like you said, Hitler had to essentially remove the entire operation and a mode of operandi from the.
And Hitler hated capitalism as well, by the way. Capitalism is what caused. Capitalism, unfortunately, in this instance, kind of helped Hitler's cause because it made the mark worthless.
Well, exactly. Capitalism failed, so fascism rose. Fascism is capitalism in decay, as someone once said. But no, Hitler, he needed capitalism to thrive because he used the wealth of corporations who backed him and the suppression of the working class to his benefit. Because, yeah, of course, Hitler had a lot of control of the Nazi party, but all that was suppression of capitalism and suppression of Nazism and the far-right ideology onto the people. As beyond the SS,
and also you are aware.
Finish War Corps.
All right.
Beyond the suppression of the SS, markets could do what they want, and people. You look, Germany, like itself, was still not friendly for the working class because it was so capitalist and because it was so right wing. There is no avoiding the fact that fascism and capitalism are interlinked. Fascism grows from capitalism.
You are aware that Hitler's party, the fascists, let's just actually, they're not fascists. Let's just say what they are. They're National Socialists.
Which are fascists.
Okay, fine. They came from the left, not the right. In Germany at the time, the right was the Kaiser's people. Okay.
Yeah, and they evolved into Hitler's.
Here's what it is. You want to basically put anyone that's on the right as a fascist, but the definition doesn't work.
It does. If you look at the conservative-ish or where the equivalent to like Conservative Party were in Germany, they were happy with Hitler and adopted some of his talking points about German nationalism, about race and the Jews and stuff, because they weren't that uncomfortable with it. Essentially, like, you're forgetting that Hitler was obviously, being a terrible person, was also a capitalist. And yeah, you can say, oh, they were National Socialists, but if you look at what Hitler actually says, he essentially used socialism as a buzzword. He used it as a buzzword. He believed that instead of liberating the working class, they should liberate the German race and the Aryan race by removing the Untermensch, or like, I don't know, Jews, black people, disabled, to create his disgusting worldview. But it's a perversion of the word, because socialism is not at all connected to National Socialism. It's just that, obviously, because he's put it in the title, it's like easy to smear the left with it. The left and Nazism have absolutely nothing to do with each other.
Okay. You also know that when Hitler became chancellor in 1933, he introduced policies aimed at improving the economy. He did privatize some state industries. Wages increased by 11% for anyone who was on his good list. But he also went into rationing. And then as it grew and as the war went, there was no more private property. There was no private sphere where the individual belongs. There's no licenses. There's no nothing. To say that fascism has, first off, anything to do with capitalism, that's another argument in and of itself. You know, I mean, we can debate history. You know, but to say that Hitler didn't like capitalism. But he wanted to control everything. You can't control capitalism.
He handed control of markets to private means and was in favor of capitalism. He despised socialism. He essentially smeared communism as a Jewish conspiracy, essentially. But in regards to his actual views, he was very much a capitalist. He used the private means of production to make Germany wealthy and didn't care that many Germans still remained poor, because his vision of the world was to just make Germany an ultimate like white superior capitalist nation. But he very much was happy for corporations to get wealthy off the back of their workers' labor. And yeah, obviously he did have some social programs, but very much that it was still a case that the means of production were owned by the private industry, and he used the free market as his tools. And it's even worse when you go into Italy. In Mussolini, he was very much a believer in capitalism and free market capitalism. You can't ignore that fascism grows from capitalism, and capitalism's decay is what allows the far right to hijack society and to win people over to their ideology.
Except the fascism was a far left movement. And again, Antifa is a far left movement that fits the definition far better than anything on the right.
It doesn't though. Antifa literally stands for.
And also, you're ignoring the 25-point program, which was the economic program of the Nazi Party. I just pulled it up on Wikipedia, which had the nationalization of all businesses that were corporations. So Coca-Cola under Nazi Germany would now be nationalized, aka the government's problem. Profit sharing in large enterprises. Extensive development of insurance for old age people. Land reform, sustainable for national requirements. These are in the fucking Nazi plan. This is not capitalism run amok.
Yes, it is. They use the capitalist means.
How the fuck is it capitalism run amok when you're forcing Coca-Cola, let's say, to build a goddamn park and pay for some old fuck's health insurance?
That's not socialism at all, though, is it? Because what they've done there...
That was in the Nazis' plan.
Yeah, but that's not a left-wing thing, is it? They've just made a corporation do something. That's not the same thing.
Oh my God. Wasn't it the left-wingers that wanted Obamacare and free college and free Medicare and free Medicaid and free this and free that? That sounds... Again,
that's not what they did. You said yourself they made a corporation do a few things to help the Nazis build.
They made them profit share. That's
yeah, but profit sharing isn't a left-wing thing. That's not a socialist thing. That's just a slight amendment to capitalism. Like you can't you see that the profit itself isn't a socialist thing at all? That's very much a capitalist idea.
I'm seeing businesses being forced to be more socialist, and you're still saying that's somehow capitalist.
They're paying like taxes. They're putting money back into the country. That's not like full socialism.
No,
That's not
the Nazi government is forcing them at gunpoint to say you will share your profits with your employees.
No, they're saying yeah, some of the profit is going back.
I just read their fucking 25-point program.
Yeah, but you're not reading it correctly because that's not they were allowing corporations to get wealthy. And yeah, fine, some of the profits went to workers because if you remember, Hitler removed all the Jewish, black, disabled, etc., workers, so there were fewer there, so that every worker could be given like enough to keep them happy, but not enough to actually affect the sizable growth of the top percentile. Like you're forgetting that yeah, it's easier to give more money out to the country and to the people when you removed populations because through your like Nazism, like yeah, I don't see how this isn't like being seen. Nazis were very much capitalist,
and it's easier thanks to socialism to just give people money versus getting them to be better and earn it.
No, but well, it's not. It wasn't just giving them money.
We're getting off. This always happens with us. We're getting off the rails a little bit. Now we're in a debate about Nazi Germany and their policies. Can we please stick to the 21st century?
Antifa.
Okay. Antifa, alt-left, alt-right.
Well, we can address the idea of the alt-left, which there's no such thing as the alt-left. It's
yes, it is. It's Antifa.
But it's not. Antifa don't call themselves the alt-left. They are very much socialist, and there's no. If you
I don't care what they call themselves. They're the alt-left.
But they aren't. The alt-right call themselves the alt-right because if they were to call themselves what they actually are, then no one's gonna like listen to them because they'd be just outwardly describing themselves. The alt-left because the left are happy to call themselves what they are because the left is good.
Oh, the left is good and the right is evil. This is what you're breaking it down to.
The far left, well, the far right is pretty bad.
Okay, what do you define as far right?
Oh, well, like I said, like fascist, Nazi, white nationalist, white supremacist.
Okay, you're throwing in racists in there too. What about Milo Yiannopoulos? Is he bad?
Sorry? Yeah.
What about Milo Yiannopoulos? Is he bad?
Yeah, but he's one person, and frankly, he's a waste of space. I don't care to speak about him.
Yet he has sucked more black dick than all the dreadlocked Antifa girls put together.
I didn't say he was racist. I mean, he probably is. But
how the hell can he be racist? He sleeps with black dudes. How the hell?
That's not. You can be sexually attracted to someone and then still find them still say racist things. Like it's not. All that essentially is I've got black friends, therefore I'm not racist. It's like it's not a very good defense, is it? Really?
Okay, how many black friends do you think Richard Spencer has? How many black friends do you think the White Dragon of the KKK has?
Yeah,
how many black friends? No, racists tell you they're racist. It's usually the first thing on their goddamn mind.
No, that's not how racism works, is it? Because most people aren't just going to come out and say, "Oh yeah, I hate black people."
No, that's how.
Every
racist I've ever met has literally told me flat out they're racist.
But that's not what most like smarter racists will do. Like they're not going to openly declare themselves racist, but then they'll say things which show that they are racist. Like racism isn't as simple as just, "Oh yeah, I am a certified racist," and then
yes, it is.
But yes, it is. It's not. Like,
well, then how the fuck can you be racist unless you're overtly saying things like Jews will not rule us?
Because like racists don't they're not as open with their views. They're so things that aren't going to just openly expose them as that. That's why the alt-right call themselves the alt-right, because they know that if they just say openly their views, they're going to be like shamed for it and shunned.
Oh, so like Black Lives Matter saying they want dead cops, which is another factor of the alt-left.
Oh, for goodness sake. They don't say they want dead cops. They're expressing their intense dislike of the state of the police. And frankly, given the way the police treat black communities, I would very much say that, it's a bit got some justification in sort of saying, "Oh, well, we really don't like the police," because.
Okay, they're in the streets. They're chanting over and over. I can send you video after video. What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them? Now. Yes, there have been instances where the police went way too far, and those cops are now in jail. Yes, they are. There's also cases where, yes, it's questionable. But again, no system of justice is perfect. Now, I believe that, yes, cops should have body cams on them, turned on at all times, and they can't be turned off by the officer themselves. That's how I would.
Who's going to pass that law? Who's going to pass that law? No one. Do you think Republicans are going to care about what happens to black communities?
If they want to get elected, they will.
No, we don't. You see the turnout in the black communities for Trump. No one, pretty much like all black people essentially voted for Clinton, and Trump still won. And if you look at what they're
there's
doing,
a lot of black people that voted for Trump.
Yeah, and an overwhelmingly more population voted for Clinton. But the point is,
so they don't matter then.
No, I didn't say that. If you're listening, those laws to reform the police.
No, I said black people voted for Trump. Oh my God.
But no, you're not listening to what I'm trying to say. The reforms that you're talking about, police should do this to be safe, they're not going to happen because the Republicans are going to gerrymander and distort the voting so that the votes that will come for police reform won't happen. Your system is very undemocratic. But going back to what you were saying, if you look at you're saying, the police, if they do something bad, they go to jail. Like literally the other day, Trump pardoned that guy. I can't remember his name. But,
yeah, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, and I disagreed with that decision.
Yeah, exactly. So how can you say, the police don't get to jail? That's not one.
You have one cop who should have been punished, who wasn't.
But it wasn't like he just did some one thing wrong. He ran prisons where thousands of terrible things happened. And there's a thread on Twitter actually that's really good. It's got a whole list of things he's done.
I've studied Joe Arpaio in detail, and while yes, he's done reprehensible things, and I don't think he should be a sheriff, proving criminality is another matter. But also, a lot of people say a lot of bullshit about him.
Well,
if somebody says something on the internet, Owen, doesn't make it true.
It was the people who've reported about him for years, and they have they've got articles. They won cases in court for the sheriff guy tried to sue the newspaper reporting on him, and the newspaper won the defense.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think he should have been pardoned.
Exactly, but he is. He's a free. He's not.
Okay, you have one cop that. Okay, let's say I'll concede it. He exceeded. He escaped justice. Okay, yeah, there's been other cops that we put in jail.
Yeah, there's still enough.
But, okay, let's just say we take all the shootings of white cops against black people, because that's apparently the only combination that fucking matters. We throw them all up. You get to maybe 200 for the year. How many black people are killed by other black people in my country?
That's not the same thing, or is it?
Oh, for Christ's.
Well, it's not. Where there's poverty, there's going to be more crime. That's just.
So, okay, what's your solution? Because I have a perfect one.
I've got one. Ends capitalism, then you won't have poverty, and then crime will go down.
Actually, no. Capitalism is a solution. Rebuild the black family. Stop the welfare state. Stop glorifying single moms. Education is paramount. Owen, you're black. You're college? You're not college educated. You are going to university, right?
I've done first year of university.
Okay. Yeah. When you were growing up, was education not important in your home? If you were failing a class, your mom said, Owen, what the hell? You're failing math. You can't play PlayStation or whatever.
Well, of course, yeah, but that's
okay.
Not...
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. In a lot of these families, the parents don't give a shit about education, and it's actually even actively discouraged.
Do you think that's a bit of a stereotype, though? And do you think there's more?
Why the hell do we have Ebonics then?
We have what?
Why the hell does my country have what's known as Ebonics, which is essentially hood speak?
Well, I don't think
why is California getting rid of the requirement to know English and math to graduate high school?
That's not a really I think that's a very fair thing to say.
You're saying people like Damon John,
who's Damon John?
Damon John was a very poor black kid who grew up in one of the worst neighborhoods in America, and thanks to capitalism, founded the clothing line known as FUBU, and is now a billionaire.
Yeah, that's one person out of millions for one.
And Joe Arpaio is one person out of hundreds of thousands of cops.
Well, I wouldn't quite say that's the same thing. You can't equate.
How is that not the same thing?
Well, because like with police, there's the widespread problem of black communities, and especially in prisons, guards mistreating prisoners. And the difference there with with one person out of many millions of poor people getting richer.
There's actually more than just one.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, but it's not. There's still an underclass. Capitalism needs people in poverty to work.
No, it doesn't.
Well, yes, you're going to
no.
Exploit.
It needs people to work.
Who's going to exploit if there's no if capitalism?
They're not exploiting them. They're paying them.
Well, we'll get onto this in a second. But what I was trying to say a second ago, is what was I say? Here we go. You're saying, black families they discourage education, they don't care. But that's a massive stereotype. You have to remember that in capitalism, you need to sell your labor hours to survive. And single parents or parents who are much poorer, they can't afford to be around their kids. They can't afford to take any time away from working because otherwise, they're going to have no house, they're going to have no electricity, they're going to have no food. So to say, if you just work,
don't I have the welfare system for that?
Sorry,
don't I have the welfare system for that?
Well, the welfare system's been cut, and it's less than what you need to survive. And
I just checked. In 2017, a family of 5 gets $771 a month in food stamps. That's more than enough for a family of 5.
Not really.
You want to bet? Bullshit.
Is that, and that's in one state, presumably, isn't it?
No, that's the federal SNAP program. That is federal.
And that's going to last under Trump, is it? They're not going to cut that.
As far as I know, Trump can't do diddly dick, or he doesn't care because he'd rather be tweeting.
Well, yeah, but he's still doing things. That's not going to last, is it? And also, that's not.
It lasted under Bush.
Not the only thing, is it? What happens?
In fact, if anything, Obama cut it. So I don't get where you're going with this. $771 a month is more than most families spend on food who are not on welfare.
Well, firstly, that's not going to be all money you're going to be spending. What if you don't have healthcare that's very good there? What if an injury happens? What if there's no room for anything else to go wrong, or any sudden need for money?
We have
living the red line.
Most states have state health insurance.
Yeah, which is
I don't know if there's a federal program, so we have that. There are also free hospitals.
Which are being defunded.
But no, they're teaching hospitals. They're connected to medical universities.
Yeah, and they're being defunded. They don't have money.
No, they don't need any funding because of the fact that they charge every fucking student $9 million to go to college.
Well, I mean, that's not entirely. All that money's not going to the hospitals, though, is it? There's not.
No, it's going to college administrators.
Well, exactly. It's going to the people running the capitalist class. Can't you see that under capitalism, money's not going into the public services? It's going to the elite.
Yeah, but under capitalism, we can afford to have all these things. Also, there are charity hospitals set up by places like Walmart that aren't getting defunded because they're privately funded.
Yeah, but that's not enough to survive for everyone. But also, they wouldn't even need the charities there if we address the actual problem, which is that capitalism causes poverty, and it causes the mass suffering you see in America.
Versus communism, where everybody's fucking poor. And
which country are you saying that's in?
Every country that fucking has tried communism or socialism.
So, which worker-owned nation has had this? Because I don't think there has been a worker-owned nation where this has happened.
Okay, I'll give you the example that has been given to me over my last rant against communism or socialism. That was the workers. God, what the fuck was it? The workers' nation of Catalonia. Okay, this was in Catalonia, which is actually a city in Spain.
It's a like a region more than a city.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And they were purely socialist from about 1937 to 1939.
And what happened?
And then it completely collapsed.
Or
You know why?
Franco invaded, you mean? I mean, Spain took over.
Well, yeah, but it was already on the verge of collapse anyway because nothing was getting done.
No. Franco,
Yes.
the person who won the Spanish Civil War, the fascist, essentially, the capitalist who won the Civil War, had more money and had, like, sort of sympathy.
Do you know what was happening at the factories 2 weeks beforehand?
What happened?
2 weeks before they invaded. Okay, yes, I'm not going to discount the invasion, but there was nothing happening because they couldn't force workers to work. There were no bosses. Everything was done in a committee. Everybody sat down and decided how much they would work this week, what they would produce this week, what would be stored this week, and everybody just decided. And they all got paid no matter what. So big shock, they decided to do diddly shit.
But can you see that? Firstly, there's more to it, isn't there? But secondly,
can you not see that socialism and communism are good ideas? But unfortunately, sometimes even the best ideas are horseshit once you put them in the real world.
No, I don't.
They would work if we weren't human. But we're human.
Not the case,
Capitalism
that isn't the case. It doesn't work at all. Have you seen the state of the world? But what I was saying is you can't have socialism in a single state. The whole point of socialism is that you sort of don't need the state because all workers are communicating and sort of together anyway. But socialism can't work in a single state because the forces of capitalism will go and crush that nation. Look at US.
Because capitalism works.
No, well, so it's okay for a capitalist nation like America to go and interfere in a socialist nation to try and ruin it, like it's done.
No, we don't have to. It'll ruin itself.
No, what you do. Look at Chile. Look at Chile. Chile was heading to be more left-wing. They were nationalizing stuff. They were becoming a more left-wing nation, a social democracy. The US funded
Venezuela
and armed. No, if you let me finish, the US backed a coup with Pinochet. And killed the leaders of that left-heading Chile government, and then Chile was fascist for years. Venezuela, for instance, you say Venezuela, the US boycotted Venezuela and has placed sanctions on Venezuela, and then drove the price of oil down to fail Venezuela's economy. It's worth pointing out that Venezuela is not socialist, as the workers didn't own the means of production. So you can't say Venezuela was a socialist nation. It was trying to be socialist, but the Chavez administration never relinquished power to the workers. And indeed, there were still privately run things there. It's just most of it was nationalized. But you can't ignore the capitalism has always tried to crush socialism wherever it's popped up.
And you can't ignore that socialism always leads to a corrupt dictatorial government. You cannot ignore that under socialism, nothing gets done. And quite frankly, despite what you never wanted to admit it, Owen, capitalism has given us the modern world. It has given us every goddamn thing that we're doing right now. The medium we're speaking on, the fact that we can even speak to each other, all of it. Everything.
No, on both
it's because of capitalism.
Firstly, you can't say that a socialist state led somewhere when the state was never socialist in the first place. Which is
Venezuela was socialist and it failed.
When did the Venezuelan workers own the means of production in Venezuela? That's the criteria for it to be socialist. So
again, they own the means of work in Russia, and that failed. Again,
no, they didn't own them in there either, because Lenin had the government centralized, and in fact, he used the government's police to maintain control. And they never actually achieved socialism because of they had a civil war there, and they were in the middle of World War I. So they never actually got anywhere. And then obviously when Stalin took over, he never intended to go socialist. But going back to Venezuela, the workers never owned the means of production. So how can you say it was socialist?
Oh, geez, I don't know. No private property rights, nothing, and everything shut down. They had the best economy on the planet under capitalism. Or at least in South America. And then they went socialist. You get this huge old Chavez faggot in there, and everything goes to hell.
You didn't listen to what I said. The criteria for being socialist is for the workers to own the means of production. That's the literal definition. That's what socialism is: worker ownership of society. So if Venezuela never, What do you mean it doesn't? Well, it doesn't matter if you don't think it works. That's the criteria. So how can you say
Okay.
Venezuela was socialist when that criteria wasn't met?
Okay, fine. They weren't socialists. They were a dictatorial shithole that called themselves socialists. The problem is
Exactly. So how
that's
can you
what
say
every
that's socialism's
socialist
fault?
society turns into.
But it didn't turn into it because it wasn't socialist in the first place. You just said it wasn't socialist. So how
Oh
did it
my
turn into
God.
it? But no,
Okay.
could you not see the flaw here? Like
And
people
do you
say,
not
"Oh,
see the
well,
flaw in socialism? You're never
no,
going to get there.
but
There's
why
never
not?
going to be a socialist society,
Why not?
and it doesn't work because
Why would it work?
okay, I'll take this back. I will backtrack one little bit. A socialist society might work if and only if we reach a point where robots and other machines are doing 99% of the labor. That
That
is
is
the
how.
only way, or we get like a replicator from Star Trek. Outside of that, no. The
Well,
only
have you
thing
not
that
seen
moves forward is capitalism. The
automation?
only
I don't think so. Automation is already massively like growing. If you look at
and
what's
it
happening.
creates new jobs.
Sorry, it doesn't though. Like, look
Yes, it
for
does.
instance, in the north of my country, the UK, in regions of northern England, there are massive coal mines and like steelworks and factories and dockyards, and obviously that was a lot of labour power. So workers had a lot of sort of stead. But then all of a sudden, in the 80s and 90s, you see not only labour being outsourced elsewhere, but robots and machinery coming in to replace them. So suddenly you don't need to pay 1,000 workers a wage when you can just have one robot and like one or two people manning it. And suddenly you've got all these workers who have nowhere to work because there's no jobs for them. You've got a surplus and you don't need all these people, but suddenly how are they going to earn a wage? How are they going to sell their labour when there's no need for their labour to be sold? No one's going to pay them to do nothing. And that is capitalism's biggest flaw. It doesn't know, it can't adapt to automation and the lack of labor being needed. So we need urgent change like now because we're in an economic crisis. We haven't recovered from the one in 2008. But poverty is rising in the West. The third world is obviously there's no more stuff they can exploit. They've lost their ground there. So capitalism is dying. And if we don't change,
Really?
yes.
Really? Is that why in Minnesota and in more than one state we have a hiring crisis? We have more jobs than we have people. Is that why that in the late 1880s, when machines first started popping up, workers would smash them and think that their jobs would be gone? We've had this problem for a while. A machine comes in, everybody freaks out. And the sad fact of the matter is that machine creates about 20 new jobs.
But it doesn't.
Yes,
Have
it
you not
does.
seen? Have you not seen what's happened? Like, look at the East Coast of America, like Baltimore. It's quite a famous example. Detroit, all these areas where like there used to be lots of physical labor and lots of like workers like with physical manual jobs, and all of a sudden they've lost all their jobs because of automation. Automation is massive.
No.
No.
I mean, no. I mean, just no.
Why?
Okay. Here's what happened to Detroit. It was growing. It was awesome. It was the center of the automotive industry. And then in the 70s, you had the welfare state pop up. And then, yes, the war on drugs, which was a fucking idiotic, disastrous move. And that gutted Detroit. The automotive industry bottomed out. Detroit, here's the thing, Owen. Detroit was heavily reliant on one industry, and that's the problem. But here's the thing. Give Detroit 20 years under capitalism, and it'll be back. It'll find a new
It was
industry.
under capitalism anyway.
Yeah, and it bottomed out. Again,
But,
I'm not saying capitalism is goddamn perfect.
But so how can you say, oh, give it capitalism and it'll be fine when capitalism was what caused it to be in a state in the first place?
Versus communism, where it's always a shithole.
But no, but we've already established that the places you point to as your examples aren't communist. So How can you say that?
So you have a cop-out, basically, that you say that socialism and communism has never failed because it's never been tried.
I didn't say it's never failed. I said, but the examples you're using to show that it has failed are incorrect because they're not, by definition, not socialist. And like, so like you see all these people saying, "Oh, socialism didn't work. Look at Russia." And
you
like,
didn't really give me an explanation of Catalonia. You said you said the fascists invaded.
Yes,
which I believe actually in this instance they were fascist.
Yeah, well, they fascist every time, but never mind. Like if you to give you a contextual example, I know a bit.
But then Spain went communist about 2 minutes later, which is another left-wing party.
What? What do you mean Spain went? When did Spain go communist?
Spain went communist about oh, for Christ's sakes, hold on. Communist.
The Socialist Party won the election.
Spain.
So, I can assure you, Spain is not a communist nation.
Communist is a political party in Spain. Blah blah blah. United Left. Oh fuck! All right, fuck it. Spain went communist. They
didn't. When?
I thought the nationalists lost the goddamn war.
No, the nationalists. What Franco won the war. That's the whole point. That's why, like, there's a whole Catalonian independence movement because, like, Catalonia got taken over.
Fuck shit.
You okay?
All right. No, I accidentally. I clicked on a goddamn link that highlighted the discussion we were having. Sorry.
Okay. No worries.
No, it. What happens is that I hear my voice and your voice, and then I hear. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand what happens. Yeah. Okay. But no. Like, what was I saying? There are lots of parties in Europe called like the Socialist Party. For instance, in France, the party that just left office was called the Socialist Party, and they're not socialist at all. They're centre left. They're like the equivalent of New Labour in like Tony Blair and stuff, if you know anything about that. But the parties like even like there was a party called the Socialist Party in Spain, which took office recently, but they're not socialist. They're like left. They don't advocate for handing the means of production back to the workers, so they're not socialist. They got it in the name. It's a bit like how North Korea is called the Democratic People's Republic, but obviously that's not the case. They're not democratic or a People's Republic. But I feel as though we've sort of left the whole Antifa and like fighting fascism.
Yeah, we got a bit our familiar rabbit hole again of capitalism versus socialism. Jesus Christ! All right.
Okay.
Hold up. Let me start this off. Let me start the salvo off. Although, I think pretty much everyone can agree that Nazi equals bad, racist equal bad, KKK bad, white nationalist bad.
Absolutely.
What I'm saying is nobody on the left is condemning a group of people that caused a fucking riot just because a speaker was at a college that they didn't like. Nobody on the left condemned Antifa for it. Now, the left is trying to normalize Antifa and saying, well, they're just fighting fascists. It's like, no, violence on both sides is wrong. If you want to, that's the cops' jobs to stop.
The cops' jobs. Have you seen? Well, have you seen the clip recently of this white supremacist who says, "Hey, nigger," and fires a gun at a black protester? The police are stood like the police are right behind there. They're right around, and they do nothing. The police are, and also right, the FBI are investigating the police for white supremacy infiltration.
Good.
Yeah, exactly. But how can you say the police will do the job when the police have a massive racist?
You have how many police officers in that clip?
Lots.
How many?
Lots. I don't know, like 15, 16 at the back.
Okay. Like, okay, fine. Let's investigate that department. That's a large enough number for me to warrant an investigation in the whole department. What about when Black Lives Matter stormed a stage of a speaker and the college told the cops to stand down and they did?
Sorry.
Again,
What
what
did
about
Black Lives Matter do?
or what about when Antifa was threatening people and the university told the cops to stand down and they did? This shit goes both ways, Owen.
Who did Antifa threaten?
People that were attending Milo Yiannopoulos talk, Christina Hoff Sommers talk. What? Because he's somebody you disagree with, he shouldn't have the right to speak. And anyone who does agree with him or wants to hear him speak, even though they might disagree with him, should be threatened with violence. Should I be threatened with violence because I say things you disagree with?
I didn't say that, but I feel as though your focus is misplaced. If you look at the Charlottesville...
No. What my focus is when we have the forcible suppression of speech, which is what Antifa does, that is fascism.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. What the fuck do you call causing a goddamn riot?
That wasn't suppression of speech, but that was the consequence of the speech. Like, for instance, if you listen, no one has
and I don't give a fuck if it's the consequence of the speech. It's still suppression of speech.
It's not. All it's saying is that there should be consequences for being a Nazi, which and no one's saying they've never said. They've never said.
Now we're gonna fight.
No, they've never said. They've never said there should be legal consequences. And no one's ever said, "Oh, you should be beaten up for this." They know they're breaking the law.
Well, they do that.
They are still. Sorry.
Yeah, of course they're going against one of the founding members of Antifa literally took the goddamn stand 2 days ago and told a judge that punching Nazis isn't a crime. I say yes, it is. It's assault.
War Corps, Antifa's not an organization. There's no founding member. It's like a movement. It's not a
really? Well, okay, the founding member, one of the founding members of the fucking movement.
There's no founding member. Yeah, but obviously there's
fine. One of the main members. Look, there's a hierarchy in it.
No, well, yeah, fine. One of the speakers, yeah, but you can't just it's not like
how the fuck do you justify a goddamn riot that destroyed hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of property because somebody gave a talk that a bunch of fucking cunt fucking college kids are such a bunch of special fucking snowflakes they couldn't fucking handle? How the fuck do you justify that?
Milo Yiannopoulos, he showed a trans person's pre-trans photos and encouraged the harassment of them to the point where that student had to leave the university and
I've seen that clip, and no, he didn't.
But yes, he did, because the student had to leave. Why did the student leave?
Oh my god, a trans student had to leave. It could have been for a myriad of other reasons.
It was because of Milo Yiannopoulos.
No, he said it was because of Milo Yiannopoulos. You know why? Because that gives you instant victim status, which makes you...
Oh, for goodness sake. Milo's a piece of work. He's a paedophile as well, so, you know.
No, he's not.
Paedophile advocate, then.
No, he's not.
Well, he is.
Again, if you actually listened, Owen, to what he said that when he was younger, he had a sexual experience with an older man. And he felt that was okay. It worked for him. George Takei said the same goddamn thing.
Well, then that's wrong, isn't it? But I feel like we're going
Actually, in this instance, I want to be very, very clear. That is up to the underage person.
No, it's not. You can't. No, that's awful.
Oh, really? You're okay. So a girl that I slept with when I was 15 and she was 18, she should be going to jail as a child molester.
Well, technically, yeah. Yeah, fine. Obviously, it's in the past now, but that's still can you not see that's not right, is it? That's technically against the law.
Yes, it's technically against the law, but if the victim feels like they weren't a victim, then what the hell does anyone care? Milo felt like he wasn't a victim.
Yeah, but that's
I listened to the whole goddamn drunken peasants clip. I watched the whole episode.
Can you not see how dangerous that is as a precedent, though?
There's been no criminal charges filed against the guy who did it, so there's no legal precedent to set.
Oh, look, anyway, we're getting off topic massively. The whole point is, what I want to say is that with the growing far right, with the white nationalist movement rising, what is your suggestions for combating that and for dealing with that?
Ignore them.
How does that work?
Here's the thing. This is what a lot of the Antifa don't get because they're not as old as I am. Every fucking year in Minnesota, maybe every other year, there is a Nazi white nationalist KKK rally at the steps of my capital.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what they do? They yell, they scream for about 30 minutes. Everybody goes about their business. This is at least what we used to do. We go about our business. There's no big crowds, and they fuck off. That's it. That's all.
Can you see the difference in context though of that incident and no? So you don't see well, I know Trump in the White House.
Trump's not a white nationalist.
Sorry?
Trump's not a white nationalist.
Well, it's questionable.
Sorry, Trump's not a white nationalist. He's not a Nazi. He's not a fascist. He's not anti-gay. He's not anti-trans. He's not anti-anything.
He's not anti-trans, even though he signed.
Right, the military bill. Well, hell, Owen, if you're on hormone replacement therapy, you need those drugs every goddamn day. Now, if you're serving in the military, they can't guarantee that you need those drugs every day. Do you know who we also don't allow to serve in the United States military? They're called diabetics.
But that's well, I mean, that's hardly the same thing.
You want to say that transgenderism is a medical issue and not just all a nut job's head? Then okay, then they have to deal with the medical restrictions of it.
But then that's not you can't say that it's a medical issue. It makes it sound like they're ill, which they're not. Transgenderism isn't the thing either. It's just like being trans.
Is schizophrenia a medical issue?
Yes, but
there's nothing wrong with that.
Isn't. Sorry?
Okay, so there's nothing wrong with being born in the wrong body. Okay. They need to make themselves a complete person, they need these goddamn drugs. Okay, they need this thing every day. We can't guarantee it. Same thing as fucking insulin.
But that's not the same thing as banning.
Either you want to say that being transgender is a medical quantifiable thing, or it's just something that people make up.
That's not the choice I'm saying. There's no reason to ban trans people from the military.
Well, there's no reason to ban diabetics or flat feet.
Well, exactly.
Or people with asthma. Or, so we should just let anyone in the military.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, really, the problem shouldn't... But can you not see, though, that just starting to ban trans people from certain faculties and administrations, that's a terrible thing. That's the start of
faculty that a lot of people are banned from due to medical, psychological issues.
But there's a difference.
Believe it or not, I've been deemed almost unfit for military service because I don't like authority. I fight constantly against authority.
But that's not the same thing at all, is it? It's not like someone said, "Oh, you are this, therefore you are banned."
They said you are diabetic, therefore you are banned.
But that is different. That's medical, whereas the other one is just
then what the fuck is trans?
No, because they're saying blanketly. They're saying blanketly, "Oh, you are trans, you cannot serve," regardless of what their medical status is. And it's not like they're saying, "Oh, you're trans, but you must pay your own way in." They're saying, "You're trans, you can't serve at all." That's the start of worse things. They're already rolling back LGBT protections and stuff across the nation.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. They are.
No, they're not across my goddamn nation. I don't know about yours.
But maybe not in your state, but in various states.
In my nation, I have not seen one move to delegalize gay marriage. Not seen one move to
gay marriage the only measure of LGBT protections.
That gives them equal protection under the law if they're married. I love to.
That's the
where?
Only thing, isn't it?
Okay, where? What? Where?
Probably
what?
In the deep south somewhere. But I remember reading it. No. It definitely happened. Do you know it happened?
I mean, fucking no, Owen. You're just wrong.
I'm not wrong. Do you not? You can't just say I've seen this, because you can't. I'm
not saying I've seen it. I'm saying I haven't seen it. I have not seen Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, or any of these other deep red, deep South states roll anything back. Nothing is happening under Trump.
What do you mean nothing's happened? How can you say that?
Because I live here, Owen. I read the news every day thanks to War Corp 666.
No, but well, I mean, you read like feminist article. How do you know that? But
no, I read every news source I can. I don't just read Fox News. I read Fox News, CSNBC, MSNBC, every angle. I don't view things from a right or left perspective.
well, I mean, all those news sites are hardly going to be the best for focusing on real like LGBT issues, are they?
Well, I will happily go to. I've been on Glad's website, nothing on there. I'll happily go to whatever weird, wonky website you want me to, but don't be surprised if I shoot the articles full of holes, because what they're reporting is bullshit.
But I don't think that's the case. Like, a lot of legislation has been passed under Trump. It's just obviously because Trump is who he is. Like, the media doesn't focus enough on what he's actually doing. They focus on,
my God, are you kidding? The media would rather cover Trump's Twitter feed and Confederate statues versus an Islamic terrorist that ran people over with his car.
No, but you said exactly. They cover Trump's tweets, not what he's signing away in things like signing away environmental protections, like signing away business regulation, like signing away LGBT rights and protections.
Again, what LGBT rights? Name
like
one. Name
one. Like job discrimination and stuff. Like you can't, you can be fired for being trans. He's like, so for instance, if the boss said you are blacker and you will be fired, like that's against the law. But now in some states in America, a boss can say you are trans or you are gay, you will be fired, and they won't face consequence for them. That's like, it's lawful in some states, and that's been passed or has passed because of Trump's government.
They don't need to pass it.
What do you mean they don't need to pass it?
They don't need to pass it. Have you ever heard of what's known as at-will employment? That is what most jobs in your country and my country are. Meaning, if they want to fire you, they can fire you just because.
No, but that's not the.
Honestly, if the boss just wants to avoid things, all he's got to say is, "You're fired. You're doing a shitty job." That's it. That's all.
But, yes, but if they but if, like, for instance, if a boss literally said to me, "Owen, you are black, you are fired," that's against the law. I can sue them. But then if a boss says to a trans person, "You are trans, you are fired," even though it's explicitly transphobic and hateful, that person can't do anything against their boss, and that's going to really negatively harm trans people. Because it's all very well saying, "Oh, they could fire you anyway," but they weren't until they found out you were trans or gay or whatever, and then they fired you. That protection has been removed. Trump has made it so that discrimination can be increased.
How would they find out you're trans?
Well, I don't know.
Here's the thing: if you're trans, shouldn't you at the interview? Shouldn't you at the earliest onset?
Well,
present yourself the way you want to be presented in this company.
You're really missing the point here.
No, I'm not. No, what I'm saying is, shouldn't you present yourself like if you're a man that identifies as a woman, but you haven't had the surgery and you still got the 5 o'clock shadow and all that shit, shouldn't you show up in women's clothing so that they know flat out right out of the gate, okay, you're trans? Okay, I will decide. If not, I will hire you.
Well,
most of these cases are a guy comes in dressed like a guy, gets the job, and the next day shows up in a dress, gets fired, and then tries to sue them for an easy payday.
That's not the case at all. You forget that there's a lot of transphobia in society.
Really? Nobody's done that.
What do you mean no one's done that? There's a lot of transphobia.
Nobody has done, showed up as a guy, then showed up as a woman, claim they're trans, and then they get fired, and they're just looking for a payday.
No, yeah, fine, maybe one person or two people, but there's plenty of, like, the vast majority of trans people are legitimate. You forget there's a lot of transphobia in society, and people who don't. Yes, we know there's not. But
no,
people get killed for being trans. People get.
Because they. Okay. Yes, because they have the delusion that they're a woman despite the fact that they have a penis.
Oh yeah, there's no transphobia in society yet. You're saying that? Like, come on.
Okay, Owen, I'll just challenge you right now. Let's say you meet somebody you think's a girl. You have dinner. It's really nice. Dinner turns into drinks. And let's just say you're at the British Vid concert. You're at a hotel. You end up back in your hotel room.
Mm.
You're going at it. Pants drop, and she's got the same genitalia as you. You're stopping.
I mean, I wouldn't
Or
quite
you
say
not.
that. That doesn't make them. If I didn't want that genitalia, I wouldn't make them not a girl. Like that, just because I'm not attracted to that, that doesn't mean that they
Well,
suddenly
then,
don't become a
according
girl.
to Riley Dennis, you're a goddamn transphobe.
But she didn't actually say that, did she?
Yes, she did. Actually,
No,
very
she didn't.
specifically. Yes,
No,
she
she
did. I
didn't.
can play you the clip.
She didn't say that though. People like have taken her
No,
out
she
of
said
context
some
or
girls have
distorted.
penises. No, they don't.
Yeah, well, that's not. Yeah, some girls do have penises. Why is genitalia the determination of gender?
Oh, I don't know. Medical science,
No, where in
nature,
medical science does it show gender is determined
and
by
nature.
genitalia? We are really getting off topic here. We'll save this for another day. But going
We've been
back
doing
to
this the whole goddamn night, haven't we? All right. I have to take a restroom break. I will be back in a couple of minutes. Hopefully, we can actually debate what in the hell we were supposed to debate. All right.
Antifa.
Yeah, Antifa.
But yeah, I'll see you in a second then.
All right.
In the meantime, let's look at the comments. Should I be let in the military even though I am blind? Ultra X-ray, you are not blind whatsoever. Otherwise, how would you even written that comment? Let's see. Let's send Antifa to Texas. They'll send great support for those in need. Well, you know, if you didn't have capitalism, then you wouldn't have needed the extra support. In fact, your administration, your government has defunded your climate change topics. So, you know, blame capitalism. Owen, you really want me to drink bleach? What a lovely comment, son of Lucifer. The left hates Jews. What? They oppress Muslims. You mean the left criticizes the state of Israel because of their approach to Palestine, which is not the same thing as hating Jews. Antifa are the Nazis. Okay, that's just total rubbish, isn't it? Antifa is a bunch of losers with black masks. Lol. Well, you know, I think we could take Antifa over Nazis any day. Why is it okay for Antifa to destroy shit, and yet it's not okay for a Nazi idiot to have different views? Well, it's not just different views, is it? The Ultra X-ray.
Oh,
Anyway,
you're reading the
yeah.
we'll
continue now.
All right. You know, there was
Let's
something you said, actually, getting back to Antifa. There was something you said that perplexed me. You said that, you know, I brought up Antifa's riot during Milo's talk, and you said, well, that's the consequences of the talk. If you believe in free speech like I do you know what the consequences of giving a speech should be?
What?
And must be? Nothing.
Why?
Nothing. Because that's free speech. Again, I reiterate the quote from Noam Chomsky that said free speech is defending the speech that you find most reprehensible.
Can you see the difference between speech, for instance, that said, "Oh, I think that all walls should be painted red," and like I think this film is good, and it's like not a good film. And I think trans people should be locked away because they're mentally ill. I think that we should have a white ethno state, things like that, which are actively harmful.
I don't see it.
You don't see a difference there.
No.
Even though those intolerant, awful statements actually
Can you see a difference between what you just gave as the first scenario? This movie sucks. This movie's shit, and I think capitalists are all mentally ill. I think Republicans should be locked away. I think anyone that does, I think any Christian bakery that doesn't bake a gay wedding cake should be shut down.
Well, the first two, obviously, I'd never advocate for them. I wouldn't say any of like, mentally ill capitalists or Republicans should be locked away, unless they obviously commit crimes. But as for the last one, the anti-gay marriage cake thing, well, you're not allowed to discriminate, are you? So that'd be homophobic if they denied someone's
If you're
voice.
Muslim, you can.
What do you mean?
In my country, Steven Crowder did a video, and it's been verified 100 times that Muslim bakeries do not face the same repercussions that Christian bakeries do if they refuse to bake a gay wedding cake, because Muslims are on a higher playing field in the oppression Olympics than Christians.
There's no such oppression Olympics. Yeah, obviously there are some problems with some subsections of Muslim populations, but do you not see the sort of context of like the difference between like the Christians face less discrimination than Muslims in America? And
well, considering that the left has been taking it up the ass from Muslims, no, I don't. Muslims can do whatever. Christians legally get forced to do things they don't morally agree with. Now, I think that let me be clear. I think that they're fucking idiots for doing it. But how is the West taking it up the ass from Muslims? Are you serious? The fact that the entire media won't report on terror attacks.
Yes, we don't report on them. If anything,
really? Barcelona was quickly buried because of fucking. We got to talk about this Confederate statue right here of a guy that's been dead for a century and a half, and everyone that knew him was in a century and a half.
Was this American news?
This was the American news. Yes, they cared more about a Confederate statue.
Not immediately after, so they obviously focused on Catalonia.
No,
after.
They didn't.
Well,
Yahoo cared less about. The Barcelona attacks barely got on the top 5.
That's well, even if that is the case, that's one thing, and I can absolutely assure you that attacks like that don't get pushed down in my nation, and not in America either. And in fact, far right attacks, I think you'll find, are very underplayed in America. As
really?
Not only do you
name me a far right attack.
Well, that was that man who killed 2 men defending a Muslim on a subway station. There was a
one.
Roof. There's loads.
You got one. You got one.
But look at all the school shootings.
What was the rough one? I missed it.
Sorry, the school shootings, Dylan Roof. You can look at what's his name? The other day when that peaceful protester got a car driven into her and she died.
Okay, 2.
Charlottesville. It's
sorry, I can't remember Dylan Roof. I'm sorry. So I'm going to give you 2.
There's plenty.
But you're spacing it out.
The FBI identify the far right as a massive terror threat. It's only because they've been defunded that the media don't report on it, but we don't hear about it because it's a bit uncomfortable when you have to report on your own sort of nation harboring massive problems with their system and with the far right.
The entire nation's media, with the exception of Fox News, did everything in its power to get Hillary Clinton elected, and they failed.
I mean, yeah, obviously they're going to support.
I'm sorry,
but Hillary's right wing and a capitalist, so I don't really see what.
Oh, Hillary's right wing.
Of course she is. She is. You can't say she's left wing at all. Have you seen her like economic view and stuff? She's a Democrat. The Democrats are a right wing party.
Oh God! All right, let's just get back to Antifa.
Yeah.
We're sparring like 9 other debates, and if I'm gonna have this, I want to have this on a much larger channel. Nothing to the fine people that have joined us this evening. And yeah, the Islamic terror and the left's inability to deal with it because Muslims are fucking special for some goddamn reason. I would actually, you know what? Before I leave that topic, I do want to ask you one question. I'd love for you to answer it. How in the hell can you call yourself a feminist and defend Islam?
I don't defend Islam.
You just kind of did.
Well, I defended the stereotyping of Muslims, and I said that far right is more of a threat than Islam. But that's not me defending.
I'd rather have far right than Islam. But
I wouldn't.
I'd rather deal with neo-Nazis than Islam, because neo-Nazis,
Well,
again,
Islam's a bit of a broad term, isn't it? Like, what do you mean Islam?
The 250, actually now it's getting closer to about 300 million Muslims that, while they might not be terrorists, support everything they do, which to me makes them just as culpable.
Well, I wouldn't say that's the case, but would you call the U.S. Army terrorist?
I don't agree with everything we've done,
Yeah, but would you call them terrorists?
I wouldn't say they're terrorists, no.
But even though they bomb civilian areas, they attack innocents,
It's war.
Sorry, well, why isn't that terrorism?
War.
So if
name me one fucking war where civilians haven't died.
No, but if ISIS said, "Oh well, it's war. We're at war with you. Therefore, it's not terrorism," would you accept that?
Well, they're not a state, are they? Also,
well, they don't,
I
so
don't really remember the United States Army taking gay people up to the roof of a building and throwing them off.
Well,
I don't really remember the United States taking atheists, putting them on their knees, and chopping their heads off. I wouldn't
really use gay rights as your defense for America. I don't think it was.
The hell I can't.
I don't think it was that long ago that gay people weren't treated very well, and still aren't treated very well in America. Do you remember in the 80s with Reagan, when you had the AIDS epidemic?
The 80s, only 30 fucking years ago, 3 decades.
Well, that's not that long ago if you think about it.
For fuck's sakes, that was 15 years before you were born?
So, it still happened. Like, it still affects. That's not.
Oh, well, black people were enslaved at one point. It still happened. White people were enslaved by black people at one point. It still happened.
No, but well, you not see the consequences of things that are in the recent past. Like, they affect us today. There are gay people who are missing family members, and people who are just missing like friends and stuff and family because of this epidemic. But Reagan
no.
No.
They're missing family members, and I sympathize with them. They're missing family members because of those family members.
Because of the Reagan administration.
All. No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Like we can. No. How the fuck can Reagan say, "You're a mom of a gay son, turn your back on your son"?
We can absolutely. They can absolutely oppress.
That comes down to the family.
No. Well, where do you think the family got their prejudice from? American culture and American values for years were anti-LGBT, and to be honest, they still kind of are, because as we're seeing now,
not.
Why not? They've been. It was only like 2013 that Obama signed the statewide gay rights.
Owen, look, I know from goddamn experience. Okay, my grandma was a devoutly religious woman. I told her I was an atheist, and she didn't turn her back on me. You're right. I'm not gay. Almost goddamn wish I was, so I'd have some more ammo. But no, it comes down to those people made that choice. You can't eradicate assholes by legislation. And honestly, what Antifa wants and what the left wants is what control of opinion.
It's not control.
At the end of the day, Antifa is fascism because they want to control the narrative and what is spoken in this country. You're not allowed to publicly speak this because we disagree with it. Therefore, we'll get violent at your event.
Oh, you mean the movement that says everyone who's not white and Aryan should be killed? Yeah, how dare they oppose that?
Yeah, how dare they oppose that? They're only the smallest minority on the planet.
They aren't the smallest minority.
As the KKK has 5,000 members in a country of 315 million.
Well, why do you think their movement is now called the alt-right? Because they've realized that the KKK...
They're not called the alt-right. The left designated them alt-right. And alt-right has also become a goddamn buzzword. Gavin McInnes, who is not racist in the least...
Who's Gavin McInnes?
He's the guy from Rebel Media. Milo Yiannopoulos, who's not racist in the least, is labeled alt-right.
Well, he pretty much is. I mean, if you look at his views. Look at, but
How?
yeah.
Okay, wait. We've been dancing
I
around
don't care
Milo.
about Milo Yiannopoulos. He's one person. He's relevant.
Okay, well, how is he racist then?
Well, look at what he says about certain topics, like I don't know, like Black Lives Matter and stuff, and things like that.
Black
But
Lives Matter is
regardless,
a bunch of violent thugs that decide instead of marching for anything, they'd rather smash shit and burn shit. Look at the way the best civil rights leader of all time marched, Dr. Martin Luther King. Look at those marches. They were
and
peaceful.
do you not see
They walked, and he faced arrest. He faced fire hoses. He faced a lot of shit. But because he held himself with class and dignity, he ended up becoming the good guy. Now, Black Lives Matter, smashing a bunch of black-owned businesses, doesn't really endure themselves.
That's a simplistic outlook on the civil rights movement. You miss a lot of the other people who also were more active and more
like
present.
Rosa Parks. A lot of people have built up the myth of Rosa Parks. Do you know what she actually did? She wasn't looking to become a civil rights icon. She was just tired and didn't want to get up from a seat, and that's it. That's all.
No, but she became a civil rights leader. But if you look at the work of
she didn't. In fact, she kind of went into seclusion after it because of all the attention she got.
But anyway, you're missing the point that it wasn't just that. Look at the Black Panthers; they were crucial in the
the Black Panthers were a militant blackist group.
They
were a black supremacist group. They wanted two Americas.
Sorry, they were.
They wanted two Americas. They wanted a black America and a white America.
Within the Black Panthers did, but at the same time, you can't deny they were crucial in protecting black neighborhoods from racist police and the KKK. They were every bit as crucial, and they prevented the deaths of thousands of black people.
Oh, they didn't?
Yes, they did.
No, they did.
Yes, they did.
Really?
They did.
Were they crucial in Detroit? Were they crucial in New York?
Were they crucial in urban areas?
No, they weren't.
What do you mean they weren't? The police were worse back then than now, which is saying something. And the KKK were a massive threat. And it was only until they started beating the racists out of those areas that any progress was made. No, yeah, obviously things were improving, but it wasn't until physical action was taken that they got rid of the presence in there. It's worth pointing out Martin Luther King, as good as he was killed. And he got shot. He died. And yeah, I'm not denying that he was a great person at all, but you have to remember that it's also force which gets change as well. And sometimes you need to take violence against fascists and against the far right.
No, you don't. That's where you lead into really bad shit.
That's what?
That's where you lead into really bad shit.
Why? What bad will come from?
Well, hold up. I would also like to point out that you mentioned the Black Panthers and you mentioned the KKK. The KKK had a massive exodus in 1957. Do you know why?
One of their leaders turned out to be like a pedophile or something, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
About 10 years before the Black Panthers ever rose. And they were a shell of their former selves.
There was still a KKK, and there were still white supremacists. You have to move past the idea.
There's a KKK now, but they have no power.
Yes, but you have to move past the idea that every racist is in the KKK. Like, people are smart enough to realize it's a bit of a toxic thing to attach yourself to.
Right. Okay, every racist is not in the KKK. Look, I hate to bring this up. Most people in the 60s weren't racist. They didn't care.
Are you joking? Walk-offs in the 60s, there were literally people still trying to protest the idea that black and white people be taught in the same rooms. They still do that today, in fact, to some degree.
Yeah, you're right. A room full of old white guys were saying that. Meanwhile, the dad who had to provide for his 3 kids working at a factory couldn't have given a shit less.
Well, of course, yeah, poor people have always sort of been more left-wing and more progressive. But that's not to say...
No, it's not that they're more left-wing or more progressive. That's what you like to paint them as.
Well,
They're just, it doesn't, if it doesn't affect my fucking life, I don't give a shit.
Well, no, people have more empathy than you like to make them out to be. And whilst it is obviously America, so, you know, empathy's sort of beaten out of people.
And you think people are more divided, and you think people are more racist than what they are.
I would disagree. I think there's still a lot of racism, as we're sort of seeing with.
No, there's not. There's less.
But there is. Well, how can you say that when you look at society and you look at
again? You have a left-wing media that is poised to do anything.
Left-wing media? Are you sure?
Oh, I don't know. What way does ESPN slant? What way does MSNBC slant? What way does NBC slant? What way does ABC slant?
Left wing, so
they're left.
They're not. They're left of the Republicans, yeah, but you can't say at all they're left wing. Like, they're in favor of like free market deregulation. They're in favor of private healthcare. They're in favor of all these right wing neoliberal ideas. And yeah, fine, not as much as Republicans, but you can't say at all they're a left wing party. They really aren't. Like, in America, yeah, fine, they are the left in quotation marks, but that's not at all a good sign of like a good way to gauge it, because like America is very far to the right. They're very capitalist. Like, they're Bernie Sanders was considered a really left-wing candidate, and he was advocating for things we already have in Britain, and indeed most of Europe has already had for decades. Like,
yeah, look at your state now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd rather still think Europe's a lot nicer than America. But,
I'd rather live in my capitalistic shithole than your.
Well, we're capitalists as well, but we're just not as right wing. But either way, the far right, they are a threat. They're rising. They're dangerous. They're killing.
No, Antifa is dangerous.
But they're not. The only people Antifa attack are the far right. Values
that we hold as America. Okay, I would argue that white nationalists are dangerous if they were shutting down a speech from Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton, but they're still free to give their speeches. But Ben Shapiro had to pay $15,000 to give his speech at Berkeley.
Why? Well, of course, yeah, because you can't just
security.
You've got a right to free speech, not to a free platform. You have a right
to a free speech and a free platform. The right of free speech gives you the right to a platform.
So I could just say to a university, "Oh, I have free speech. I want to speak at your university and in your halls, and you will let me. I'm booking out this hall." No, you have to pay.
Yes, if you have the money. No, hold up. You're missing an important point. If you have the money to book the hall, yes, you have the right to use that hall as you see fit.
No, the hall can say, no, we don't want your speaker.
Yes, they can say no, but once they say, you know what? Yes, you have the right to speak here. Also, colleges are a really shitty battleground to have this on, because a lot of colleges, in my country at least, are publicly funded. Now, if you're publicly funded like the library, let's say, you have every right to say whatever the fuck you want, because all of us pay for it.
Yeah, but people can protest.
Yes, they can.
Yeah,
peacefully.
So what's the problem?
But they can't smash shit. And literally 30 minutes ago, you said that was the acceptable consequences, or at least that was the consequences of Milo speaking.
In an ideal world, yes, there would be no violence, but you have to accept that fascists, they don't care. I
don't accept that. No.
Do you not see how rubbish they're built?
Do you not see how close you're getting to fascism, which is the forcible suppression of ideas or opposition?
That's not everything.
Political ideas.
I'm not forcibly suppressing ideas.
For fuck's sake, that's a fucking Webster's dictionary definition of it.
Yeah, and you've left out half of it. Fascism is connected to capitalism, and therefore...
No, it's not.
It is. That's the whole point.
Oh my God. Okay, let us not mention capitalism or socialism or communism or any other form of government again. Let's just deal with...
I mean, they are kind of connected.
Let's just deal with the freedom of speech versus Antifa and fascism's hatred of the freedom of speech.
Can you see that a fascist who says, I want a white ethnicity, all people who are not white should be got rid of, are actually...
That's a white nationalist.
Yeah, they're suppressing free speech. Their idea is to suppress.
But a black
free
person
speech.
can be a fascist too. A black person who says, we don't want white people on our campus on this day, and then try to get a professor fired, are fascists.
No, because that's not.
How is it not the same thing?
Because there's more to fascism than just we don't want certain people here. That black person who said that, yeah, fine, they're somewhat racist. However, I think there's more to it than what you're saying.
There was a bunch. It was actually a student group that did it.
What, you wanted a like black only speech or black only?
No, black only students, black only students on college campuses for, I believe it was Tuesday, June 5th, I think.
So what we wanted, what was it for? Like what was the purpose of
They
it?
just wanted a day without white people.
And there's any like are you sure it wasn't like a talk or something, or like a safe space day? Well,
Nope.
I don't know. I would need to read into it more, but you're missing the point, which is that the main problem in America.
You seem to be sidestepping everything I say.
No, because it's not relevant at all. Like you're bringing up because you're bringing up little like tidbits when the main problem in America is the far right.
Really?
Yes,
I say it's the far. When is the last time the far right went on a riot?
What, the other day when they ran a car into someone and killed them?
That's not a riot, dear sir. That's an act of murder.
Well, yeah, but that was the whole point. They intend to do it.
And also, how much violence has Antifa caused? How much violence has Black Lives Matter caused? How much violence has all of these leftist groups caused?
How much violence has the police done onto Black Lives Matter to make
their job at times to subdue violence is to cause violence?
Yeah, and at
yes,
times,
the police
a
will
lot of the time,
to white supremacists breaking shit just as easily as they will to Black Lives Matter or Antifa.
Well,
you're trying to paint this picture of America as this racist place, and I'm not going to let you. We're not a racist country.
I mean, you've got quite a big problem with racism. I mean, like I said, look at the police force. Like,
no, we don't. No, my country does not.
It does.
Okay, let's take Baltimore, a city that was destroyed by Black Lives Matter riots.
It was destroyed by Black Lives. You mean destroyed by capitalism in some way?
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, you're right. But despite Black Lives Matter not bothering to check, the mayor of the city was black. The chief of police was black. At the time, we had a black man in the White House.
Yes, but
so where's the institutional racism that keeps the black man down?
You can't just say that, oh, well, this figure and this figure is black, so there's no racism. The police, and it is the police force as a whole, is contained with a worldview and an ideology that is to suppress the poor. And because of a lot of the poor are black, and because
the police force in Baltimore was like 80% black.
Yes,
most police forces have
mentality.
No, actually, the police forces have a disproportionately high number of black people because they have to fall under affirmative action, which is federal.
Yeah, obviously there's quotas and stuff in some areas.
And there shouldn't be.
Well, ideally, no.
There's people for the job.
Well, you know, with capitalism, that's never really going to be the case.
I just love it that you can't just admit that capitalism works.
It's not a thing. It's wrong, really. It doesn't work. But again, going back to what I'm saying, the violence started from the police, from the people onto the black communities, where you see all countless wrongful incarcerations, brutality, violence, death a lot of the time. Most people in these neighborhoods will be able to name one time or more, and many more, where the police was unjust to them. And then you have the audacity to then complain that things got a bit rowdy at a demonstration or a riot. You forget that I'm
not saying they got rowdy or a bit raucous. No. Smashed windows, burnt cars, destroyed stores, hundreds of thousands of property.
All things the police have done onto black people and worse.
No, they haven't. No, they haven't. I have yet to see 1,000 police officers go into a black neighborhood and just smash shit.
Well, it doesn't have to be 1,000. It's normally like 1 or 2.
Okay. I haven't. yet to see a video
Well,
where
then you're not
they're
looking very
not
well, are you?
actually
'Cause it's
trying to arrest someone.
Commonplace. I guarantee.
Commonplace. Commonplace. Okay.
It is. It is. There's a reason in those neighborhoods they're taught to be wary of the police because they know they're looking.
No, they're taught to be wary of the police because of racist parents.
No, because they know that the police represent a massive threat to them. Because if you a lot of the police are paid.
Really? Okay. Okay. So if you're not committing a crime,
if you'd let me finish, a lot of police are paid based on how many arrests they make. So any excuse for any wrongdoing, any attempt to try and get someone convicted, they'll take. So they'll go to areas that are poorer, and obviously black people live in poor areas generally in cities a lot of the time. They go to these areas, they look for people to target, and they go and get them. And they look for any wrongdoing, anything, and go and get them. Today, I read a truck driver drove a truck, or there was an accident with a truck, and 3 black people were hit. The 3 black people are being charged because they weren't wearing visible reflection outfits, and the driver's going away scot-free.
All right.
Like,
well,
that's ridiculous.
I'd love to hear that article, and yeah, I'll yell about that article.
But that's commonplace. Like, can you not see?
No, it's not. You know why I want to yell about that article? Because it's not commonplace.
But it is.
Do you know what happens most often when a cop shows up in that poor black neighborhood of just people trying to live their lives? Generally, what they show up to is a house that's dark, and they hear 2 adults screaming. Usually a woman in the middle of getting the fuck beat out of her by her coked up boyfriend. They don't know what the fuck to do. So they go in.
That's a massive stereotype. Like, can you not sort of hear how you do sound a little bit bigoted when you're saying, oh, they go into a black neighborhood and they're all on drugs and they're all just having sex. And
said poor neighborhood. I didn't say black neighborhood.
Okay, well, still, it's a bit classist then, if you want. But
well, okay. But apparently, rich people, because they can at least keep their wealth, know how to handle their goddamn drugs.
I think we need to go back to Antifa because, like, again, is it like I don't.
We've been going on for 90 minutes, dude.
We've been either way. I know.
Well, here's the thing. I'll tell you what. Look, I'll tell you what. I will condemn. I will stand here and say I will condemn, and I do condemn any and all violence by the right to suppress any and all speech by the left. Now, the problem is I want you to condemn it as well, because that's what Antifa does. They forcibly suppress speech.
Wrong with Antifa. They're crucial.
They just fucking shut a peaceful march down.
When did they shut up? Well, what?
Right now, today, I can send you the article.
Was it a far-right march?
No, it was a right-wing march.
But are you sure it was just right-wing?
Who cares? They were peaceful.
Yeah, well, their ideas aren't peaceful.
Look,
if they're far-right...
No, I don't give a fuck. Look, communism and socialism are violent ideas. History proves me right on this.
But as we said earlier, the examples you're using aren't violent. And yeah, fine. When revolution happens, there is going to be violence because the capitalist class aren't going to just hand over their wealth. And
yeah, there's not going to be a revolution because capitalism beats them all.
Well, of course, yeah, because capitalism just bombs or destroys the people who want change.
You know, Owen, do you not think there's a reason why capitalism is growing at the rate that it has?
Well, because
maybe because it works.
You know, if you don't comply, the US go and disrupt your country, don't they? I mean,
okay. You are aware the US is probably the youngest nation to ever achieve the status of superpower.
Oh yeah, of course, but it's all come off the back of exploited workers and corporations going to other countries.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of workers that left their job and made a bunch of money.
Well, no, I'm talking about the third world. The US.
Well, we didn't actually do that till after about the 1960s, 70s.
Oh, of course, yeah. But
once
that's
the
because
union got corrupt and demanded unfeasible wages, and yeah, okay, you can bring up. Oh, please don't defend unions.
unions are crucial.
I was a member of a union for 10 fucking years. Unions are shit.
Well, in America, perhaps because all your unions like rights were removed by various presidents like Reagan and Bush and stuff.
No,
So you've not got many union
no.
rights. What do we know? Yeah, that's
What the hell I don't know. No, I was in that union, and the only thing I ever seen it do was defend workers that should have been fired.
What
Or
give me an example. Like, what do you mean should have been fired? Because it's debatable.
showing up to work completely drunk with a bottle full of whiskey.
And you say they were defended. Well, you know, obviously there's a
They
case
were defended
of so workers
and had their job back in a week.
People tend to stick together, don't they? You stick out for your local community because, you know, in capitalism, you know, it's a tough world, and you want your like friends and peers to survive. So of course, unions are gonna have people.
No, I didn't want them to survive. Also,
Well,
Owen, I wasn't.
What?
Also, I didn't choose to join this union. I was forced to join the union.
Who?
I wouldn't have done it if I had the choice.
Who forced you?
When I took the job, I was informed that if I want the job, I have to join the union.
Oh, worker solidarity. You know, some.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Why is it wrong
for
workers to work together?
I should have had the option.
I
don't want to work.
Yeah, but in an ideal, well, no one wants to.
I don't work for anyone else. I work for me.
Well, that's you, isn't it? But you know, that's not.
No, that's that's about a lot of humans.
Oh well, that's only because of capitalism, and if you don't work, you starve. So you know that's what it's for.
Yeah, well, again, you didn't have to deal with You didn't have to deal with drugged out workers. You didn't have to deal with drunk workers. You didn't have to deal with workers that didn't do a goddamn thing. You didn't. Again,
byproducts of
unions are toxic.
You can't blame unions for things that are societal problems.
They're toxic.
But why can't
Join
you see that you're
Owen, work 2 years, work your ass off, and then
I don't deny there are massive problems within unions and within the American workforce. However, you can't just say, oh, it's the union's fault, it's the left's fault, capitalism works, when you just ignore the entire societal problem. Like, can you not see there's more to the issues you're describing than just, oh, lazy workers and unions suck? Like,
you know, I will say this: unions for a time were necessary and needed. And in some industries, they maybe still are, like the Teamsters, because over-the-road truckers are independent contractors. They need a union. But in a business, no.
Who's going to look out for the workers?
Even worse, government employees. Those unions should be banned.
Who's going to look out for the workers if there's no unions?
The workers themselves.
Well, that's not going to work. Who's going to win between one worker and a corporation that's like multi-billion?
If that corporation would like to keep that one worker, they will pay him what he wants to be paid.
That's not going to happen, is it? Because the
hell it doesn't. Ever since I left my union job, I have made far more money and have been far happier.
You're one person, War Corps, and
dismiss the argument because I'm one person.
No, but what I'm saying, you're missing.
Most people.
Like, you're saying, oh, you can leave if you don't like the job, but lots of workers can't. Like, yeah, finding jobs is hard, especially when there's not enough to go around. And with workers, like if a worker doesn't accept rubbish pay or rubbish conditions, then what are they going to do? They've lost their pay. They've lost their means of surviving under capitalism because they can't sell their labor. And even if they were to sue a corporation, like who's going to win? One worker with no union, or a multi-billion corporation of like thousands of lawyers it's employed to deal with this exact thing, to quash any worker? No, the worker most likely stays quiet, accepts the rubbish conditions, and obviously keeps their job and keeps their means of surviving.
Most likely, if you go back with these cases, the corporation just pays out a settlement.
Well, for the
So
city,
the worker gets a bunch of money.
Sorry. So, in the more notable cases, yeah. But for everyone like that, there's loads more, which that doesn't happen with.
And also, that wouldn't happen under socialism because they'd be taxed into oblivion.
But there wouldn't be private corporations in socialism, would there? Because all money goes back into society.
Yeah,
So
just
there's no profit.
everybody just works for everyone else. That just works.
Well, it does, because everyone.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Of course, it does. Why
No, it
can't?
doesn't. Even when you were setting up that little lemonade stand, when you were 5, you were a capitalist.
But that's not. There's still like small businesses within socialism. You know, it's just that the money that's made goes back into society.
Oh,
Money. Everyone survives.
Why would I
Everyone
start a
can live
business
happily.
then?
Well, because
Okay,
money is
hold
not
up,
the
hold
only
up, hold up, hold
incentive.
up. Let's just finish. Let's just finish talking about Antifa. We keep going back to socialism versus capitalism.
I mean, I think it's all
Goddamn time.
related, but it does just keep getting sidetracked.
All right. I just want to end this. All right. What in the hell are Jesus Christ? Do we even have final thoughts on this?
Well, I've got a few.
All right. I'll
I mean,
give my final.
I know you disagree. But the far right are a visible and growing threat in America, and they've always sort of been there, but they're now, because of the sort of decay of neoliberalism and capitalism, we're seeing the societal problems many are facing being shifted onto scapegoats, and like the far right and say, oh, it's immigrants who are causing the problems. It's this race. It's the fact that we've got more diversity, and then they're growing their movement by addressing things that say mainstream politicians aren't. If you look at someone like Hillary Clinton or like politicians like George Bushes and Jeb Bush and stuff, they're just the typical mainstream politicians we've had for like quite a while now. They're right wing, they're capitalist, and they are not offering real solutions. So instead, the far right can distort society and pollute the view by saying, "Oh, here's a problem. Life isn't fair. We'll make it fair by doing these racist, awful things." And because they're such a presence, because they're so dangerous, and as history shows, because if you don't oppose them, if you don't take action now, the consequences later on will be far worse. You need a group like Antifa to come in and do action against them. And frankly, yeah, of course it's against the law to just attack people. Of course it's sort of saying, oh, because these people have said something, we need to go and attack them. Yeah, absolutely. And it should remain against the law. But it's a necessary breaking of the law because you need a group like Antifa to prevent, and you need the far left to fight and prevent Nazism. And frankly, if it's a choice between no laws are broken and the far right grow, and a few laws are broken and the far right shrink, absolutely we take the latter, and we have a far left activist group like Antifa dealing with fascism and fascists.
All right, my closing arguments are, again, because my worthy opponent didn't really deal with Antifa's reaction to speeches they don't like, and the fact that right-wing speakers are constantly drowned out, the fact that just today there was a right-wing march planned, but Antifa intimidated them into not having it. Again, fascism, as I stated by Webster's Dictionary, is a movement that suppresses all political opinion opposite to their own. I still say Antifa is far closer to fascism than anything on the right. All right.
That was fun.
Is where I'm going to end this broadcast, and I will see everyone later.